Okay, I got cut from work, but I have to talk to you because I'm experiencing a glitch in the Matrix. You know, I read about these things and I watch that Anti-Matrix and stuff like that, and I'm like always fascinated by it, but it's never happened to me, and this is super weird, and I just need to tell you about it. When I was in college, you know, I was in the music program because of musical theater, and the chair of the music department, well, I mean, she was awful to me. I actually have a story, a video that is still posted on my account that like is about how she didn't cast any people of color in a show where like part of the cast is supposed to be people of color, and then she just put them all in blackface. But it wasn't just that. Like, she would constantly yell at me and constantly demean me, and she made me feel like in theater being black is a setback. That stayed with me for decades. It was really hard to not believe that for a very long time. Actually, there are a lot of people that I know and I'm still friends with that, you know, she was pretty awful to be honest. But anyway, 2 years ago, she passed away. She passed away from, I think, cancer, and her daughter posted something on Facebook about it. It was amazing because all of her old students just came out of the woodwork to like talk about how devastated they were and how horrible this is, and this is just a tragedy. I have a very close friend who also was in the music program with me, and I remember that she sent me like a Marco Polo. If you have the app, you know. She sent me a Marco Polo being like, I feel bad because I feel like that line in a chorus line, and then she sang it. She was like, because I felt nothing. Oh, the song about Mr. Carp, whatever. If you don't know chorus line, just, it doesn't matter. And I was like, girl, same, you know, we both felt the same way. But the crazy thing was, if we went on Facebook, all of the people that were devastated about this horrible loss were like people that had also talked shit about her, you know. They even vague booked about it because I was like so annoyed. I also a couple weeks ago made a video about how I have like this intense memory for like certain things, right? I have a very intense memory of the day that I found out that this woman died. I remember what I was wearing. I remember exactly where I was sitting when I learned it. I remember where I was sitting when I got that Marco Polo from my friend. Cut to today, okay? This happened maybe like 35 minutes ago, okay? I get a text from my friend being like, I can't believe we haven't talked about this. The chair of the music department passed away. That's just what I'm gonna call her because I'm not gonna say her name. I was like, no. You're crazy. This has already happened. The next text she says is, I feel bad because I feel like that line from a chorus line. No. Okay, this has already happened and you've said exactly that. Then I go onto Facebook because I'm thinking this must be like a memory from 2 years ago or something, and it's just like resurfacing as like a memory on my friend's page, right? No, it wasn't. This was posted like a few hours ago. Even worse, remember when I said the thing about people like, you know, who had just talked shit about her and had a bad experience with her and who are now saying that they're devastated? Well, the main person in that was the person's post that I saw talking about how devastated they were that this woman passed. Everything is happening exactly as it happened that day, only instead of me being in bed when I'm reading this information, I was at work. I'm genuinely freaking out right now. How is this possible? How is this possible? Of course I went scrolling through my Facebook to try to find that vague post that I made. It's not there. Like, what the hell is going on? I actually have a wild theory about it, and it has to do with quantum immortality, and I think that that's insane. That's insane, right? Oh my God, please don't judge me for this because I know how I sound. But like a couple of years ago, I got into this car accident on my drive home from work. I was hit by a drunk driver who was driving in the wrong lane and didn't brake, hit me going 40 miles an hour. Just destroyed my car, okay? I was wearing a seatbelt, and I remember that after, you know, the car accident happened and after like all the fogginess, you know, that happens after you get hit, everything seemed off. Everything seemed weird. I couldn't hear for a while, but I did not have a scratch on me. Like, I had lots of bruises from the seatbelt, but I didn't have a scratch on me. The police get to my car and they're like, I don't know how you survived this. The ambulance gets there to take me to the hospital to get checked out, and they're saying that they don't know how I survived this, much less no scratch, right? And everything kind of felt off since then. And, you know, I kind of like researched it and looked on Reddit, and that's where I found out about quantum immortality. Like, maybe I'm in a different timeline. I think that's crazy. I just want to be clear. I mean, I suppose it's possible, but I mean, but maybe I'm in a different timeline where she hadn't passed yet. I am losing my mind. This is crazy. I'm genuinely cracking up right now. I mean, honestly, just tell me in the comments if you think this is insane or if you have any theories. Like, seriously, this is insane.
I flipped my car upside down and jumped timelines. At least that's what I think happened. Regardless, some very paranormal things occurred. I was 18 and I lived in rural Illinois. My daily commute to work was 30 minutes on a long stretch of highway. So that morning I was driving to work, there's no other cars around me, and I look at the time, it says 7 o'clock. I'm like, I'm supposed to be walking into my job right now, and I'm still 15 minutes away. So I remember I turned down the music and I stepped on the gas a little bit. I didn't think I was flooring it, but all of a sudden I'm veering to the left. Later when we went back to the scene, it looked like I was sliding on loose gravel that was in the road. So now everything is going in slow motion, right? I'm looking at where I'm going to be heading, and I'm about to cross through the left lane. And all that's there is a big field with like a 10-20 foot drop. I don't even know. So I can see my future. I'm like, I'm gonna go flying and land in this field. I'm done. So I overcompensate the wheel and I just go all the way to the right. So now my car has completely to the right, and again, slow motion. All I see in front of me is tree trunks, just a dense wall of tree trunks that is very close to the side of the road. And I'm going fast. So when I see that, I accepted that it was over. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. It was like an automatic thing. I was like, I'm done. Then all of a sudden, my right wheel starts to come up, and that's where I black out. By the way, I don't understand how physically I'm going to the right, but then I roll this way. So I black out, which is crazy because that does not happen to me. I lost consciousness. I don't remember hitting my head or anything like that, but next thing I know, my car is upside down, and I'm laying on the ceiling of the car, like literally in like fetal position, like this. Like I was placed there by like an angel or something. By the way, in my car, I had a board game. I was like in my backseat. When I woke up and I was like this, my head was in the lid of the board game. And there was everywhere, matted into the side of my head, like my hair. So I wake up, I feel normal, like I don't have pain, but I'm like panicking. I didn't know if my car would like blow up. It was still on, and I was like so scared. But when your car's upside down, you can't exactly open the door to get out. I called 911. The operator was like very rude, but thank God, like pretty soon after I woke up, I hear a man's voice being like, "Hey, are you okay? Like, is there anyone in there?" And I was like, "Yes," and I put my hand on the window, and this sweet old man named Cliff helped me like open the door. He had to dig a hole, and he helped me out of the car, and some other men stopped by too and were like helping me. The ambulance took forever to get there because I was between two counties, so they couldn't decide who to send. So finally an ambulance comes, they check me out, they put a neck brace on me, and then this is weird, they were like, I don't know if you want us to take you to the hospital because it'll cost a lot of money. I was like, oh, it's gonna cost like my parents money, like I don't know if I should do that then. So I went to the hospital with this old man, Cliff, who happened to be a good guy, but like, why would they suggest I go with a stranger? Crazy work. This guy, Cliff, was like a saint. And it was so crazy that he happened to be driving past that day. He said that he was on his way to another town to build a ramp for a guy's house who had just been put into a wheelchair. And when he took me into the hospital, he wheeled me in a wheelchair, and at first the nurses just saw him and they didn't see me. And they were like, "Hey, Cliff!" And all the nurses knew him because he painted the hospital walls for free. Like, he's just like a beautiful person. So anyway, I get checked out. Everything is normal. All of that, like literally half my face and my hair, like I barely had any injuries, and it didn't like even make any sense that there was that much. All I had was a little gash right here. My eyelid, I still have a scar right here. And I have like a little tiny scar right here. I had no bruises. Afterwards, I did have a lot of pain like in my muscles. Like it just felt like my muscles were so sore, like whiplash type of thing. But like no bruising. I don't know how I lost consciousness. And I don't know how I got cut because there was no glass in my car. Like the windshield obviously shattered, but it doesn't go inside. It just like cracks and crumbles within itself. Glass might have been outside the car, but there was zero glass in the car. I have no idea how I got any cuts. And no bruises, and lost consciousness. And after that event occurred, for weeks, I had this weird feeling that I was supposed to be like doing mundane things like watching TV with my mom. Like I was like, how am I here doing this? I can't explain it, but it was such a intense feeling like I'm not supposed to be here. So when I later learned about that theory that when you pass away, you go to another dimension where you didn't pass away, I was like, that's what happened to me. And just to make things weirder, the night before, my dad had sent to me a watch that belonged to my great-grandma, and I was wearing it when that happened. And after I got in the accident, it no longer worked, but it was not broken like physically. It just would no longer like tick.
When I was 16 years old, I was in quite literally a fiery bus wreck. I was going through New Mexico in a school bus with a group of like 11 or 12 other girls. We were heading back to Colorado. It's January, so it's snowy, icy, whatever. Basically, the bus just catches a patch of black ice. We spin around on the road, and then we roll over into a ditch. The bus, like the way it landed, like stopped rolling, was like on its like roof. Diesel fluids like running down like the top of the school bus. The bus catches fire. Literally burns to the ground. I had gone on a trip. We all had like luggage and everything with us, and the adults that we were with were not very competent, so they stacked all of our luggage in the very back of the bus where the emergency exit is. So whenever the bus rolled, we could not get out. Like we were stuck inside, and all of the luggage and everything was blocking the way out of the bus. It felt like we were in that bus for like a long time trying to get out, like a long time trying to get out. Some people saw the bus, like saw the wreck and everything. They pulled over, and they were able to like come over and like open the emergency exit from the outside. and start throwing luggage out and just like pulling all of us girls out. But it felt like so long. It felt like a long time we were stuck in that bus. Brother David, that's the man that was like the dad of the home, whatever, he was like screaming like that thing's gonna blow, and he was like trying to get all of us like away from the bus. We were all like just disoriented standing in the snowy field. Some don't have shoes, we don't have jackets, like we're literally just in the fucking snow. It's been like 7-8 years since this happened, and the whole entire story, if you've seen the cult story time, it's incredibly traumatic for me. And so once in a while I like go on Facebook and I look up the group home leaders' names, and I look up the church we went to, and I just scroll back and back and back and just try to find like posts about, I don't know, it's just validating. I do it a lot. And just like a week or two ago, I was going through and I found a post. It said that the bus burnt to the ground within 20 minutes. I swear I was in that bus for 20 minutes. Several cars pulled over, got this door open, threw out all of our luggage, and started pulling all of us out. They got all of us out of that bus in 20 minutes. You know what I mean? And we are in the middle of New Mexico, like in the middle of nowhere, okay? And ambulances are able to get to us, and like they load us up in ambulances. The thing is, nobody was wearing a uniform. We're volunteer paramedics. So they were in civilian clothes. We got taken to a volunteer hospital. It's not an actual hospital. It's just this really tiny hospital with apparently a bunch of just volunteer employees. And then we get home. We get home in the evening back to the house that we lived at, and my parents are there. After a year, they left me for a year in a different state, and they were there back to pick me up that night. I get all my stuff, I go with my parents, and after a year of being in this hellhole, I finally go home. And when I tell you, from the second we got into my dad's truck, we never spoke about the girls' home ever again. We never spoke about the girls' home ever again. It is like it didn't exist. It's like it never happened. I can't find anything like on the internet about it. All I can find is like a couple Facebook posts just like within the church. Seeing that post, it burned to the ground within 20 minutes, was just such a like, did it? Because it really felt like I was in there for 20 minutes. Apparently we were only in there for like minutes, and it just doesn't seem, I don't know, seems weird.
Story that I haven't told many people because frankly I feel like everybody would think I'm crazy. When I was 16 years old, I went on a ski trip with my school. I live in Australia and snow is rare, so we had to go an 18-hour bus ride down south to the snow. I was with my friends, we're having a good time, we were excited to go snowboarding, but on only the second day of this trip, my entire life shifted. So because we weren't experienced in snowboarding, most of us school kids would go with the people who worked at this snow lodge, and we'd all snowboard as one big group down the slopes. Some of the courses were more easy, some of them were more difficult, really just depending on what sort of experience you had as a snowboarder. I had none, so I was snowboarding with a big group of people, but I was the person at the very back of this group. Everyone starts to turn around this big mountain. Because I'm 5 seconds behind everyone, I turn around the mountain 5 seconds later. Mind you, it's a super busy day on the snow, it's a beautiful sunny day, and there are people everywhere, and like not just us school kids, like a lot of people. But when I turn around this big mountain, everyone is gone. Everybody who was in front of me was gone, and everybody who was skiing or snowboarding behind me was gone. Like there were people who were not in the group I was snowboarding with, other people behind me. So once I went around this mountain, they should have followed. I should have been able to see everybody in front of me, because after I turned this mountain, it was just a straight long slope down the hill. But I was dead alone. I'm obviously instantly confused, shocked. I don't understand what's happening. I get my phone out to call my best friend who was on this ski trip with me. And I remember so distinctly, my phone was on like 75% charge. Like it was charged. But as soon as I pressed this little circle to enter my phone, my whole screen went black and the no battery signal came up. The only way I could make sense of what happened is that everybody somehow just beat me to the bottom of this course, and everyone behind me somehow went past me without me realizing. I was just like grasping at straws. So I continued to just keep snowboarding down the hill, hoping that I'd just make it to the end. The thing is that there was no end. There was no end to this course or whatever alternate reality course I had just jumped into. As I mentioned, I was not an experienced snowboarder, so I was trying my best to snowboard, but I kept falling over. I decided to just eventually give up, clip my snowboard off and walk. I walked for like an hour. I was tired. I was carrying this heavy snowboard. I was walking in snow, which is just as hard as walking in sand. And after what feels like forever, I finally came to this, what looked like an abandoned ski lift. It was really dingy and old and creaky and looked scary. I thought my best chance was to get onto this ski lift so I could get up high and have a look around, hoping that maybe I'd find where the main area is, because in the main area there's like a bar and cafes and restaurants and whatever. I thought if I can see that, I know which direction to walk in and I can just make my way over there before the sun sets. But when I get onto this ski lift, there's nothing but snow and trees. And obviously I was freaking out because it was sunset, like it was about to be dark. But then I was also thinking, how the fuck did this happen? Like I was with a group of people in a busy area. And also because I was a child and a beginner at snowboarding, obviously they took us to a course that was super close to like the main area. The fact that I'm now on this single seater ski lift looking out 360 views and there's nothing, I didn't know, what do you even do? And it was on that ski lift, I just broke down sobbing. Like I genuinely thought I was going to die. I just wanted my mum. And this ski lift just drops me off at nowhere, like no destination, no platform, nothing. The cabin that we were staying at, the way to get to this main area to go skiing and snowboarding in was that we had to catch a shuttle bus and then an underground subway. The sunset, it's dark. You have to understand how scary it was. Because when I say dark, I mean I couldn't barely see what was in front of me. There's no city lights anywhere. Didn't have the torch on my phone to shine. Just as I was about to give up and sit down and accept what was going to happen, I saw like this glowing light in the distance. And what it led me to was like this glowing tunnel with a staircase leading down into it. And what led me to the bottom was an underground subway. How that was there, I don't know. Why it was there, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense for there to be a proper station there because I was in the middle of nowhere. But sure enough, the subway came and I jumped on it. And it took me to the shuttle buses and I took a shuttle bus back to the cabin. And when I walked into the cabin, all the school kids I was with, all the teachers that were there were all having like dinner together. And I was like, was no one looking for me? And everybody very nonchalantly, not in like even a rude way, were just like, oh, hey, Chloe, there you are. It was almost as if they were hearing me through a filter and they weren't grasping the gravity of what I was trying to say. I don't know. The whole thing was weird. The energy was off. For the next few days, I stayed in the cabin. I refused to leave the cabin. And then when I got home, things felt slightly off. I don't really know how to explain it, but for example, certain objects in my room were in like a different place. And it's not as if anybody in my family would have gone in and rearranged my room. I didn't feel like that's what happened. It felt as if that is where it belonged. But I knew that it was in a different spot before I left. Even just weird things like timing felt different. Everything was just slightly tweaked. When I told my sister about this story a few years later, she said to me, there probably is a timeline out there where you did get lost in the snow and quantum jumped. And she said there's probably a timeline out there where our family is grieving you, which is so scary and sad to think. But that's my story where if I told anybody, they probably wouldn't believe me.
So let me tell you about that time I died in a car crash. It was September 2019, and I was driving home from a camping trip in Santa Cruz with my now ex-boyfriend and my French bulldog. It was about 10:30 at night. I was going about 70 miles an hour on a 2-lane highway out in the middle of nowhere. I was driving and I was talking to my boyfriend and looking at him when all of a sudden he screamed, "Look out." I turned and there was a pickup truck pulling right in front of us at about 10 miles an hour. And there was no way I was gonna miss T-boning that pickup truck. I did not put on the brakes. I turned the wheel of my Honda Civic and turned the wheel back, and I do remember seeing the taillights right in my face. I didn't spin out. I didn't leave the roadway and go onto the shoulder. I didn't hit the telephone pole that was right there. We were just continuing on the 2-lane highway. We didn't speak the rest of the drive home, and the quality of life changed. There was a different vibration. There was like a pop or some type of shift that happened in that moment where I didn't hit the pickup and I continued on, but I know I died in a car crash. And nothing has been the same since. This dimension, reality, whatever separate timeline, stream of consciousness I got into, COVID happened, lockdowns happened, everything that's happened since September of 2019 is not what was going on in the space I was in before that car accident portal opening shift. The ex-boyfriend and I still talk about that day, knowing we know we died, and we continued as well.
Okay, y'all, so I learned a new term last night called quantum immortality, and basically what quantum immortality is like you never die. So when you die in one timeline, you're basically still existing in all these other timelines because we're multidimensional beings. So you never really experience death, because when you die in one reality, you basically wake up consciously in another reality where nothing happened to you and you basically are still alive. If you want to go down the rabbit hole, just type in quantum immortality and go look at all the content on it. But that made me think about an experience that I've had in my life, and now I want to share it with you all because I could never put into words what the fuck happened to me. Like, I could never explain what happened to me. So I was 23, this was years ago, and I was working at this job that was like driving me insane. It was so stressful. So I was under the influence of a substance. I won't say what it was, but I remember clocking out of work at 5:30 p.m. in the middle of May. So it's the summertime, it's daylight, it's hella sun outside. I only remember clocking out of work. I don't remember walking out. I don't remember going to my car. I don't remember driving off. The next time that I was conscious was when I pulled up at home to put my code into the keypad to open the gate, and I ran into the pole that was right there. And I remember clicking into consciousness and being like, oh my God, I just messed up the headlight on my brand new car. Like, I only had my car for 3 weeks. So I remember doing that, right? And it was like 11 p.m. So from 5:30 p.m. to 11 p.m., I have no recollection of what I was doing. So I was just like, oh, it's late, I'm gonna go check on my car in the morning time. When I come back outside to check my car, it was a Kia. I had to turn the Kia symbol all the way upside down for me to even drive the car straight. There were scratches on both sides of the car. The entire underneath the car, once it got looked at and stuff, the entire underneath of the car was jacked up. My parents could not understand what I was doing. They think I was driving drunk, and I just let them believe that because I really had no explanation. I had no words to explain what happened to me. When I tell y'all I left at 5:30, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened to me. I could have hit somebody. I could have killed somebody. I could have killed myself. I don't understand how I didn't have a run-in with the law. Like, I don't have any recollection. I have no words for none of this stuff. And I didn't know what to say about it. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, it's meant for me to be here. You know, I was, trying to find all the reasons of how could this be? And then I was like, oh, maybe I just shifted realities or something. But now I'm feeling like I experienced quantum immortality. Like, maybe I died in that timeline and then I died there, but then I switched to a reality where I'm still alive and experienced quantum immortality. And now I had a car that I had no recollection of wrecking or doing anything bad to, because I walked away in one piece, not a scratch, nothing was wrong with me. So y'all let me know what y'all's thoughts are.
Jump timelines. Let's talk about it. This was a little over a year ago at this point. I want to say mid to late November. And I was going to visit a friend who lives in a town about 30 miles away. It's important to state that it was like unseasonably warm at the time, and I didn't even take a coat with me. It's also important to note that like every single day, I checked the weather and there was no snow or any kind of precipitation in the forecast. So I was surprised that evening after dark when on my way home, it began to snow. My main concern here was visibility because, like I said, it was unseasonably warm and I wasn't concerned about accumulation. But when I finally got to my exit and pulled off, while the ramp did not look slippery at all, it just looked damp like the highway had, as soon as I started to apply the brake, I began to slide. This is a fairly long exit ramp. I want to say like 200 yards long. And I didn't start applying the brake, as I never do, before I had gotten about halfway there. I was probably still going about 50 miles an hour at this point, and as soon as I started to slide, I knew that there would be trouble. There were 3 or 4 cars stopped at the stoplight at the end of the exit ramp, and my first concern was hitting one of them. What I should have done in this case was try to steer to the left, because to the left of the exit ramp, there really aren't any hazards. It's just grass, the grade is fairly flat, you know. But to the right, there are quite a lot of hazards. In no particular order, they are: one, a giant wall of signs advertising different like restaurants and gas stations and stuff that you can find near the exit. Two, the grade of the ground is at a decline into a little embankment, so there is a risk of rolling. Three, a little further to the right, several yards, there is a swampy area. And four, there is a smaller collection of signs at the end of the exit ramp. So as I'm sure you can guess, I go off the road. And at this point, a lot of things start racing through my head. My first concern is that I'm going to roll, because at this point, I'm at like a 45-degree angle. My second concern is that I'm going to hit that big bank of signs, because I went off the road not too far from it. And I thought, crap, I'm going to hit these signs going like 50 miles an hour, and that's going to be it. That's lights out. Like I said again, if I had rolled and continued rolling, I would have ended up in that swampy area. And even if by some miracle I miss these three hazards, there was still the risk of me hitting the other bank of signs at the end of the exit ramp. And even aside from all of these things, there's still quite a bit of distance between myself and the cross street through the intersection. And yet somehow, in what felt like a second, I was through the intersection and on the cross street as though I had just turned right at the light. I remember my ears ringing really badly and what felt like a really great sense of pressure in my head. And granted, that could just be because of stress, right? Like, it was a really stressful situation, but nothing was so strong as the confusion. I was literally just sitting there. My car stopped in the middle of the road, and eventually other cars started slowing down behind me and started honking their horns, and it kind of like brought me back to reality, and I had to turn around because normally I would turn left at the stoplight to go home. And the entire way home after this point, my jaw is dropped. I cannot make sense of what just happened. When I finally get home, I shut the car off. I just sit there for a second, you know, without having to worry about driving or anything. Again, just stunned and trying to figure out how to talk to my wife about it. And then also a thought goes through my head that, oh crap, there's probably something wrong with the car. You know, the front bumper being cracked, or, you know, a punctured tire, something. And so as soon as I collect myself and get out of the car and start checking it out, I fully expect to find something, but there was nothing. Like, and when I say nothing, I mean like there wasn't even mud or grass stuck in the wheel wells. And like I said, the ground had not frozen yet. There should have been something. There should have been stuff stuck in the grill, especially like if I can't even talk about it, like my brain still can't wrap around it. If I were to have just plowed straight through, which I don't know how I would have without sinking into the mud or like hitting something else, how did I get all the way like through that distance from where I went off the road to the cross street? Like, there would have been something, right? Even though it rattled me so much to get back on the highway, my brain couldn't let it go. It couldn't close the loop. And so I needed the next day to get in my car and go do a quick loop on the highway so I could get off on that exit and see what the exit itself looked like. And there was nothing there. And like, when I say nothing there, I mean like there were no tire tracks, no skid marks, nothing. I'm obviously willing to entertain the possibility that this was just a series of like really fortunate coincidences, but as someone who's really interested in quantum physics, I can't shake the feeling that I may have unalived in another timeline and just popped into this one where the accident never happened. Has anything like this ever happened to you? Let me know. I'm very curious. This is something that I don't really talk about with people. Again, because I think I just sound like I've lost it. So yeah, I'd be really interested to know your stories. Let me know what you think.
He told me that shortly after he was born, his parents took him on a trip to the grocery store, and everyone in there was just oohing and eyeing over him because he was a newborn, and that's just what some people do. We also need to remember that this was a very long time ago, so this was a different time. But a woman who was dressed in an all-black dress with a black hat on walked up to Mike's parents. She was oohing and eyeing over this little baby, Mike, and she asked, hey, would you mind if I held him? Remember, this was a different time. This was a long time ago. So his parents were like, yeah, sure, that's fine. So Mike's parents hand him over and she's holding him. She's kind of talking to him. And then she looks up at Mike's parents and she tells them, like, he's going to be a very special boy. Like, he's so smart. He's going to be great at science and he is going to be a spelling whiz. Mike's parents told him that she looked down at him and she smiled and then she handed him back. This last part, they didn't tell Mike until much later, but as she was walking away, she kind of muttered under her breath, it's really a shame that he is going to perish so young. This did kind of freak Mike's parents out, but they just figured probably just somebody who's off their rocker a little bit. Mike told me that as he got older, he did become very good at science, and he would win every spelling bee, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade. By the time he got to 7th grade and he became like the champion speller, one day they're sitting around the dinner table and his uncle says to Mike and Mike's parents, maybe there was something to what that lady said in the grocery store. At this point, Mike's parents fill him in on that story, minus the part about him perishing young, for obvious reasons. Mike gets older, he's in high school, he's great at science, and he is still a spelling whiz. One night, Mike is on his way home and he's coming to this 4-way intersection. There's a stop sign on this way, but he does not have a stop sign. He keeps going. Unfortunately, the truck that is coming this way runs the stop sign because the driver is intoxicated. They impact Mike going 65 miles per hour and pin him against a telephone pole. Mike told me that the EMTs came and they had to use the jaws of life to cut him out of the vehicle, and when they got him out, he did not have a heartbeat. They put him in the ambulance and the EMTs started to work on him, and he said that they shocked him 2 times. They got him back once, lost the heartbeat again, shocked him again, and he wasn't coming back. At that point, the EMT, who was the senior EMT, decided that he was going to call it, but there was a younger EMT on the ambulance that night who ignored that EMT and shocked him one more time. After that last shock, they got a heartbeat back and got him to the hospital. After the accident, Mike stays in the hospital for a little while, but he does end up making a full recovery. While he is in the hospital, he is able to meet the EMTs that saved his life. The senior EMT tells the mom, I had already called it, but the younger guy just went on ahead and shocked him one more time when we were able to get the heartbeat back. I'm really glad that he didn't listen to me. The younger EMT was also in the room and he said, I don't know, something just told me to just keep trying. After this, Mike goes on to live his life. He's got a wife, he's got kids. Time has passed many years. Mike and his family decide that they're going to go to a local fair. While they're at the fair, there is a booth for palm reading and psychic readings. Mike says that he's not really into that kind of stuff, but his wife was into it, so she wanted to go in there and have a reading done. Mike was like, that sounds great, let's go for it. As his wife is having the palm reading done by this psychic, it's all just pretty normal stuff. Nothing really stands out. After she's done, his wife asks him, do you want to have your palm read? And he says, no, not really. And she says, oh, come on, it'll be fun. So Mike walks over to this woman and notices she's wearing all black with a black hat, and she's elderly. She's very friendly. She says, let me see your palm. Mike sticks his hand out. She grabs it. He says that instantly when she grabs it, she is like freezing cold, like her hands are cold as ice. But he's just kind of like, okay. So she's looking at his palm and she's reading it, and she looks up at him and she's kind of startled, and she stands up from the table and pushes back, and she looks at him and she says, you should not be here. Basically starts talking to him, telling him this is wrong. Why are you here? You're not supposed to be here. Mike said he's sitting there and he's just kind of like, the fuck? But this woman basically tells him, get out. Mike is like, okay, thanks for your time. As Mike is walking out of the tent, he's remembering the story that his parents had told him. They had told him the portion about him perishing young after his car accident, and they said, I guess that she was wrong. Something about the way that this woman was treating Mike, it just felt very personal, like she was like upset with him for something. Mike decides, you know what, I wonder if this is the lady that saw me in the grocery store. I'm gonna sneak a picture. So he and his family kind of stand in front of the psychic tent, like, and he has his wife take a picture, but he tells her like, hey, make sure that you get her in this photo. His wife grabs the picture and the woman is in the photo. So he goes home to his mom's house. At this point, his parents have divorced. So he goes to his mom's house and he has the picture with him and he shows it to her and he says, hey, we had this psychic reading done at the local fair. Like, does this look like the woman that you guys saw in the grocery store? His mom looks at the photo and she says, yeah, that really does look a lot like her. Without her talking to Mike's dad, Mike sends the picture to his dad as well and asks him, does this look like the woman that you saw in the grocery store? And his dad said, I can't be totally sure, but it looks a heck of a lot like her. And then Mike's dad tells him, the one thing that I can vividly remember about her is that her hands were so cold. Like everything about her skin was just cold as ice. And Mike is like, holy crap, like I experienced that with this lady too. So Mike and Mike's parents are pretty much convinced that this is the same woman that they saw in the grocery store who gave them that disturbing like premonition about Mike. It's just kind of one of those things where they're thinking about it. What a weird coincidence that is. A little more time passes and Mike actually ends up in another terrible accident. When this accident happens, he is actually in the car with friends and everyone in the vehicle is unalived except for Mike. Mike walks away. After Mike experiences this second accident, he starts to really think about what this woman said to him about how he shouldn't be here. So he's starting to wonder if he's experiencing some sort of like a final destination thing or if it's like a quantum immortality situation. He's thinking that he was supposed to be unalived in that first car accident and wasn't because the new EMT who was on the ambulance that night decided to keep trying. He feels like everything since that experience has just been kind of thrown out of whack and just all of these weird things line up that just make it so odd to him. But that day that the psychic told him, you're not supposed to be here. What are you doing here? He says that he thinks about that all the time. I don't know. What do you think? Final destination, quantum immortality? Who knows? Is this woman right, or was she just a cuckoo? I don't know.
I am pretty sure that I died in a parallel universe and ended up in a different one. Now, how do I know that? One, I am claircognizant, and I have been my whole life. And so when it was going down, the moment in question, I just had a feeling. I was like, we just died. We are now in a parallel universe. And I've had other instances in my life where I've felt time do weird things, or felt I've moved into a parallel universe. One time including where me and my sister said that we crossed over and like changed ages, and we both vividly remember how the universe was different and sort of experienced it in the same way. The clouds were different, a different color, the trees were a different color, etc. And it was only a moment. But so in this instance, the most recent instance, we were driving home from an event, me and my friend, and I somehow ended up on the New Jersey Turnpike. And I was immediately like nervous. It was nighttime, and I was just like, get me off this road ASAP. First of all, I don't belong on the turnpike. It's not the direction I'm going in. Second of all, I don't even want to be there, even if I have to be there. Anyway, but so I was immediately like, get me out of here, direct us to the next exit. She had control over my phone, and we're zooming out. I was like, drop a pin, like pick anywhere that is not this turnpike and get us off of it. But on the map, there was no indication of roads in the surrounding area, and there seemed to be no signage. And that could easily just be a lack of service. In that moment, I was, absolutely not going to mention that I felt like we just died and transferred over, because I'm responsible for our lives, and that's one, a weird thing to say, two, really scary within that moment. But then a couple of weeks later, I was just like, I could not shake the idea, and I was like, can I run this by you? And when I told them, they were like, I kind of feel similarly, not necessarily on the death front, but they definitely felt like time slowed down or time paused in some way. And I've been doing some research in terms of where universes like collide and can cross over each other. And there is that slow down or pausing of time, that sense of it. But then even more interestingly, my friend was like, that their friend has been telling them, I've been having dreams that you've died, and that no indication of how you died, but that people are mourning your death. And when she said that, or when she told me that story, I was like, that's because maybe your friend can sense the people mourning your death in the universe that we just left. And like I said, since then I've been doing research as to like what causes that, like what would cause a spirit to transcend a universe or cross universes, etc. And some say it's by choice, which I would understand, because at that moment I was feeling the sensation of it. I knew it was because I was like, no, restart the game. Like, I'm not trying to go back right now. But then, so interestingly, I was looking at my bag earlier today. I have like a cross body bag, and the tabs that they have on the zippers to pull open and close, whatever. That tab is so much longer than it's ever been, and I've been trying to find pictures to see if I have it documented anywhere, but I've had this bag for more than a year, 2 years now, and I know my stuff. Like, I know my stuff. The tag went from being this long to being this long, and it now has a W on it, and it's never had that. It's never had that. I also recently discovered a t-shirt that I've also had for a couple years with a new tag. Again, that was not there before. So I've just felt the need to share. I'm not sure if it sounds crazy. I actually don't really care if it does, because too many things have happened in my life that really solidify this for me. So, yeah.
I just experienced one of the wildest things that I have ever experienced in my entire career as a psychic alchemist. I'm going to put a trigger warning here for psychosis or anyone who is not grounded enough to receive what I am about to say. If you are not psychologically, spiritually well, if you are ungrounded, please scroll, maybe bookmark, and come back to it when you are prepared. I am going to sound crazy, and I'm okay with that. I just worked with a woman who died in a parallel reality. So bear with me, okay? What happened was this, and I'm explaining to her this scene as I'm watching. She doesn't know what's wrong with her. She just has these health issues. She tells me she has health issues. She doesn't know why. And I tell her what I'm seeing. She's walking down a sidewalk and I see something falling from like the top of a building split her in the head. She's dead, but she's not dead because that didn't happen to her. That happened in a different reality. And she's now in the timeline where crisis was averted and she didn't actually die from that. However, the version of her who did die is paralyzed, still stuck on that sidewalk. I know how I sound and I'm okay with that. So she tells me that she has had this weight on top of her head since one day she's in Chicago on a sidewalk when she got like this really weird random feeling. That felt like, did I have too much caffeine? I don't know what's going on. She's hearing her phone ring before her phone actually rings. All of those things were her and this other timeline crossing. In that moment, another version of her died. But she, in this version of reality, did not. And she said she had always wondered, did she die that day? Because it didn't make sense how her life drastically changed. She asked if I could tell when this happened. I said, feels like 2019, but I'm getting the number 23. Does that mean something? She says she thinks she was in Chicago that day, 2019, on the 23rd of some month. How I fixed it was that I went into the timeline where she's stuck, paralyzed, in shock, that version of her. I had to clear the shock from that version, pour it out of the body, and then I had to mend the brain damage, heal the brain damage, like actually in her head. As I'm working on it, she feels everything that I'm doing. She said for the first time in 5 years, she no longer feels that sensation at the top of her head. I did other work in helping her to close out that loop because, okay, even if on that day you died in a different reality, why are you still feeling affected by it? So we had to essentially close that out, clean it up energetically, heal that soul fragment and return that soul fragment back to the rest of her soul, like do all the integration stuff. And it's like she came home. She came home for the last imagine living 5 years of your life, not knowing what is wrong with you, just having a bunch of random health issues and sensitivities. And it's because of that. While it sounds crazy, she had her own suspicions, which she did not share with me. I just saw it on my own. She just kept yelling, shut up, because it happened on the sidewalk. She's like, yes, that happened in Chicago, tall buildings. In this other timeline, it's like somebody either threw something out of a window or from the top of a building and it hit her in the head and she died like a freak accident. However, her soul decided, not today. I have so much more that I want to do. I'm not going. I've never encountered this before. This might be like one of the coolest, can I say that? It might be one of the coolest things that I've ever seen. And I see some cool shit every day, man. But this is one of them things.
3 years ago, I made a video about seeing a ghost in the cemetery at 3 o'clock in the morning. It was super scary and true. After that video was posted, I made a video reply to a comment. And in that video, I was talking about quantum immortality. I come across this video today and I'm thinking, I have no idea what to call it, but I'm talking about quantum immortality in this video 3 years ago. But please, pay no attention to my fat freaking double chin. It was 2021. It was right after the pandemic. Damn it, man. On December 31st, 2008, I had a major accident at work and I think I died, and here's why. There's no way I survived what happened. And I won't get into the accident, what exactly happened. I'm going to do it in another video. How do you think that you died if we're talking like this? And my only answer is there's a possibility. Okay, so let's look at the evidence, and I have circumstantial at best evidence. My life completely changed that day, and I know what you're saying. Traumatic injuries and accidents can tend to change the way people think about life, and I'm not talking about that. I'm saying that since that day, my life has been as near to perfect as, as I could get. Just to the edge of perfect. And I'm not talking perfect, because stuff still bad happens to me. Damn it, man. In 2008, when the accident happened, I was an apprentice lineman getting ready to top out. But what happened in the late 2008? The housing market crash, right? So that's a bad thing in your life, right? Wrong. Because the work all dried up. I get called out of the blue to be a troubleman at the power company. I didn't even apply for the damn job. They just gave me the job. I tested for it and everything, and I was qualified for it, but they just gave me the damn job. I had vasectomy reversal, worked the first time, had Byron, and he is mine, I promise. 2016, a weird election. 2017, we moved to the cemetery, my final resting place, right? 2020, the pandemic. Then they also just started allowing me to just drive my truck home every day. I'm not saying that my life is just absolutely perfect and that nothing bad ever happens, and I'm so lucky I could just go buy a lottery ticket and win a lottery. Kind of like the Matrix, where if the machines give the humans a perfect world, they reject it. They revolt against the system. Well, if I was given that, I probably would, because I'm doing it right now. Damn it, man. Alan, that's just like a couple things. Well, how about this one? For the last 15 years, every single year, it doesn't fail, that one of my sports teams that I follow, whether it be high school football, baseball, football, basketball, doesn't matter. Hockey? Does not matter. Every single year, there's a championship. Whether it be a district championship, a state championship, World Cup, Stanley Cup, doesn't matter. It happens every single year. That's not evidence either, Alan. My high school football team was complete dog shit until about 2009. Then we won like 10 district championships. A high school football team that hadn't won one district championship before then, all of a sudden, we're winning district championships every year. Shit. This isn't evidence. This is all circumstantial bullshit, right? I mean, it is. But it's just enough to get you thinking. And maybe, just possibly, that accident just was a little too much, and now I'm in the afterlife, awaiting resurrection or whatnot. I live in a graveyard, bro. I mean, I almost have 50,000 followers for just telling stupid stories on TikTok. I mean, if this is the afterlife, it's not that bad. I'll give it that. Do you really believe that? 50-50? 70-30?